Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Juan from Inspire Growth. Welcome to a great episode of Growth Hacks Experiences. Today, I have the honor to have the coach or coach and a very special coach for expats and intercultural couples, Franziska Bauer. Franziska, how are you? First of all, before I can introduce you.
Hi, Juan. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. And I look so much forward to sharing a lot of inspiration and a lot of value by sharing my story and giving away a few learnings I had along the way.
Wonderful. For the community, I would like to give a brief introduction as well about Franziska, so you also understand the directions that we are going to take today. Franziska is supporting internationals to create a happy life, a happy fulfillment life, not only with themselves, but also with their relationships, no matter where they are. This is one of the big things that we have now, especially when we have a growing nomad community going now in the startup world, in the scale-up world. We are all finding now new ways of how to distribute our work and live abroad. So there are challenges coming once we get there. And this is where we are going to go deeper today with Franziska. So
yes,
Franziska, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much. If I may shoot the first arrow, Franziska, can I ask you from the perspective, how was this realization? How was this journey to support internationals?
Well, it's based on my own story, which very often is the case for life coaches, that it kind of originates in our own story. So I have been in an intercultural relationship with my now husband since 2004. So it's almost 2 decades, and in that time we have lived together in the Netherlands and in Denmark and gone through a lot of these adaptation challenges that come with accommodating 2 careers, accommodating the different needs and desires, the misunderstandings that come with different cultural backgrounds. And we've worked through that. And at the same time, I've also always been super interested in personal growth, personal development. I've read a lot of books, and becoming a coach kind of has been a dream of mine for a long time before I actually took the step to take that coaching training. And the moment that I took the coaching training actually originated from one of the big crises I had during being an expat, when I kind of felt lost. I didn't really know who I was at that moment. And as I now know, it's very common in a life abroad that you kind of have lost all these things that we use to identify ourselves. So often we identify ourselves through the community we are in, through the job we hold, through a lot of which free leisure time activities we do. And that's all of that is taken away or naturally breaks away when we move to a different country and we have to build that up again. So what I work with my clients is really to create identity from within, to increase mental fitness, to increase emotional resilience, so that you then can build your home no matter where you are, so that you kind of find your home within, and then from there can grow your branches, so to say.
Wonderful. And how was this journey as well with your husband? Was an experience that both of you went together when you went?
Not exactly at the same time, but I think we went both through our own process, but our circumstances were very different, because in many ways we were the traditional expat couple, so to say, where I kind of followed his career because he had a very clear set path on what he wanted career-wise, where I was a little bit more open, less linear. I was mostly interested in personal growth and, making a career and be successful, but kind of not in this way that society has taught me to create success, because I did study international business, and I felt really in the wrong place in that kind of university. I mean, of course, you can always find people that you connect with. I found community. I found my own experiences during studying, but I think I was also kind of molded into a path that was just not mine. So I think that's why my identity struggles were bigger than my husband's. Yeah. Because he was more set on, this is what he wants. He went for it. He worked hard for it. And he succeeded with what he had set out to do. While I was a little bit more, where do I fit in? Who am I in this world? How can I make impact as the person that I am, and with my passions? Well, so I think part of the struggle also dependent on which kind of persons we are, which personality we have. And I think that's also something that's visible because not everyone struggles in life abroad, but some people do, like a lot of people actually do. And often it has to do with previous programming, with how you grew up, what you think is right in life, what you think is wrong. And if you're more open to opportunities, and maybe therefore also struggle a little bit more in finding your own way, I think that's also when it can get harder. At the same time, exactly in that situation, life abroad is an amazing opportunity to explore, to go deep within yourself, and to really find out, who am I? What are my unique strengths that I can use to make the impact I want to make?
Perfect, indeed. And talking about the programs that we come within our life, how do you see that? From example, how was for you in terms of the culture, bringing the programs from your culture to the new culture where you were? Is this something that takes some steps to recognize? What are the first problems that you encounter?
I think one of my first steps in my career in a full-time job was in Denmark, and actually I integrated quite well in the company I worked for. It was a big Danish bank. Totally not my environment, but I worked there for 2.5 years before we moved to the Netherlands. And yeah, it was an okay experience. It didn't fulfill me fully, but what I don't even know if I struggled with it that much. It was very new to me, but in Denmark, usually you have very open doors, and you use the first name with everyone. And Austria is a very formal culture where you always use the polite form with people you don't know, and you say Mr. So-and-so and Miss So-and-so. Okay. And like, the boss is the boss. And sometimes I feel like I kind of now realize that this is basically against my own personality. So I've never been that believing in authorities just because they have a title, or just because, like, for me it was always more, and I actually struggled with that in Austria. Yeah. So kind of the way I am as a person, I actually didn't fit into my own culture. So I think that's why I then in Denmark actually thrived more at work in that context, because there it was actually, well, almost expected to ask questions and to speak up if you have a different opinion, of course, always in a polite manner and in a constructive manner, but it was almost expected. Where in Austria it's a little bit more like when you say something against authority, against someone higher up the hierarchy, you have to be careful how to do that, how to speak up. And yeah, so actually, I had almost the reverse experience, that I realized, okay, that's actually more aligned with who I am as a person.
Yeah, I think in South America is even. I'm not sure if in Austria is the same, but in South America, people even forget almost their name. They start calling themselves on their title, like engineer, doctor, economist. And I was like, wow. They used to call my father. My father used to be was an economist. So literally, I think actually for 10 years, I only heard strangers calling him economist, economist. Only that. Wow. That indeed this culture, they call it. I think in Mind Valley they were also mentioning it as the culture escaping from those culture beliefs that hold you back.
Yeah.
So
I think before our call, I also reflected on what I wanted to share. And one thing I want to share is maybe not even so much related to my country culture, but more to like a different programming that we grow up with. And I think it's more like a female culture than a male culture, like this kind of, where I always like had difficulty speaking up, being in the center of attention, and like being loud. And that was something that we talked about, or that I learned about in my coaching training already. But it took some time to make the connection when I then started my entrepreneurial journey, because we worked on which quality is it hard for us to be with. And what came out for me, it's hard for me to be with the quality of loud, like shouting, being the center of attention, being upfront. And it's interesting to see, because I think it's female programming. If we now speak in stereotypes, of course, there are always exceptions and there are always different ways, but I think it's more rooted in girls, and then later women, that we are supposed to be nice and quiet, and then like the nice girl syndrome. Kind of. And I really had that in big ways, where I felt, but I shouldn't like boast about my offers and put myself so much out there. And that's of course a problem when you want to be an entrepreneur, when you want to build a business. So that's definitely something I've worked through a lot. Mindset work.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Indeed, I think that what is masculine, what is feminine, has been imposed for the last 50 years, let's say, in terms of what was a man, what was a woman, and how this is changing so far. I believe I was about a month ago that I heard a podcast where will.i.am was talking about the subject, and he was saying as well that at the start of his career there was a big struggle with it, because there was a sense of feminism that is very part of him as a creative person. The way you see him, how he dressed, how he looks, is that creativity. And he says, like, for many people, when he was just starting, it looked like he was feminist. No, the feminist, sorry, that he was gay. And how that was imposed in the culture, and how he changed that. How you start accepting who you are, how you are, what are the qualities. So beautiful. So you see that with every client now. What are the steps where they are finding happiness in their country where they are?
Once again, I didn't.
These are some of the processes you analyze with an expat in a new country. What are
definitely. Also, I like courage, and finding your own way to show courage, and showing up for yourself, and deciding what is the impact that you want to make. Because not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, not everyone wants to put themselves out there. So I think it has a lot to do also with back to also masculine and feminine energy, like what's the way we go through our life, or we make decisions, where masculine is typical. And it doesn't have to do with men and women. It's really about the masculine and feminine energy when I'm saying this. But masculine energy is more like goal oriented, to-do lists, like checking off things, and feminine is more fluid and going with the flow in the moment. I think that awareness is very important to have. So that's definitely one of the aspects I work with my clients on. usually we start somewhere else. Usually what I do first with my clients is to create their vision for what does the ideal life abroad look like for them in every area of their life. And I also use hypnosis methods for that. So visualizations, guided visualizations, where they really tap into their unconscious mind to draw out these visions. And what sometimes comes out with this type of methodology is really something that's scary at first. It's like, where did that come from? I didn't know I had that in me. And I experienced that myself as well, that sometimes with coaching methodologies, and especially if you tap into the unconscious mind, things come out that you didn't know about, that kind of seem scary at first, and that make you think like, who am I to be that and to do that? But often later on, it shows, okay, that was my path. That was what so going back to my own story, in 2015, when I took my coaching training, we had to formulate life purpose statements. And my life purpose, and it was in a certain format. So my life purpose statement turned out to be, I am the phoenix who makes a difference in other people's lives. And it felt way too big at that time. It was like, how can I make at that time I was a stay-at-home mom. I'm sure I made a big impact on my son's life, but otherwise I couldn't see how can I make a difference in anyone's life. But now, 8 years later, I know that I make a difference for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so I grew into that life purpose, into that vision. So that's usually the first thing I work on. And then values, like being really clear on your values, knowing what matters to you, and then really taking daily action that fulfills these values. And strengths, also becoming really aware of what are you good at, what makes you you, and what makes you unique, like this whole package of strengths and values and vision. Like so that's kind of the foundation of knowing who you are, and then from there you can start working towards that vision using everything that you've learned about yourself, and then also breaking through limiting beliefs and patterns and programming. And
Wonderful. That resonates so much with the perspective of how we also start. We focus about value hacking, finding the truth of yourself, and defining that truth, that value that you are proposing to the world. And I would recommend to anyone, indeed, what you are using, the hypnotherapy sessions.
Yeah.
I recently understood really how to stop smoking because of hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
I've been struggling with stopping smoking for a decade at least.
Wow.
With sports and done. And with hypnotherapy, I realized that for me was acceptance. I just wanted to have acceptance from my family, from my friends. Cigarettes was that trigger of acceptance, which I realized that I don't need cigarettes, and I don't need to force acceptance as well.
No. Yeah.
Very, 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 very powerful tool indeed.
Yeah.
Great that you're using it as well.
Definitely.
So in sense, and you were mentioning also this Kenzo Satori moment, which is wonderful with your family, with your child, and now this vision, grand vision that you are living now. I would love to also to share with our community about the summit. Could you tell us a little bit as well about the Abroad Summit, because that has a lot to empower what you mentioned.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So it's like working as a coach, working one-on-one and in groups. I realized that, well, I cannot help with every kind of problem, because of course coaching can help with a lot of problems, because usually you don't give the answers, you help the other person find the answers themselves. But I really wanted to bring together different experts and different focus niches that help with a life abroad. So for example, also language learning, supporting children in integrating several languages, which is especially important if you're in intercultural relationship, and I'm sure you can relate to that too. When your children grow up in the Netherlands, they probably speak Dutch and Spanish and maybe also English, and then finding like also children, well, language is one aspect, but they are also developing their own identity in between cultures, which can be very confusing for them. So all these, and that's for example an area I do not work with. Like children are not my specialty. So that's how I created the Happy Abroad Summit, where I defined 6 bigger blocks that are relevant for life abroad, which both revolve around, well, the introduction to an international and intercultural life, but also how can you develop happiness skills. So for example, resilience or mindfulness, things like that. So there are 6 blocks in total. And the summit is always 6 days long, where people can watch pre-recorded interviews with different experts in each their field. So they could be counselors, consultants, coaches. So there are different, they also have different ways of working. They're not all coaches. In the first summit, I also had someone who is a YouTuber who just shares her own story on YouTube and reflects on very like deep things also. And so that's the summit. And from the summit, actually, also my business evolved a lot, because we like this collaborative approach is really great and a lot of people like it. So I founded the Happy Abroad Club, which is a membership platform where you can watch all these videos, but then also get the coaching tools. And it's mostly in a self-coaching format, but we do also have community calls where you can dive deeper on some of the topics. And right now we are actually in the process of getting developed an app, so that we have an app bringing all of that together. And the last expansion of the company is also to sell it to companies, so that companies can buy access for their international employees, because that's also, it's a specific niche of life abroad, that expatriation, that companies are actually bringing people from across the world to one country, and they come with their family. And then it's about, well, making the whole family happy and making that life abroad meaningful for everyone involved, not only the person who came for the job, because that person has meaning with that move abroad. That person maybe feels the pressure of providing for the whole family. So there are a lot of these challenges that a lot of people who haven't had that experience are really not aware of, because often expatriations are seen like this huge adventure thing, and then the whole family thinks, oh, that's so awesome, you have a great life, you don't even have to work, you can just relax. And that's not what it's like. And finding yourself in that new context is really important. And that's what the platform, especially also when we sell it to companies, is designed to help with and support these families with.
That's great. That's great. You know, in terms of, for example, cities like Amsterdam, where the rate of international employees has skyrocketed. I mean, I believe that just before the end of COVID, a new company came to the country, Miro, and Miro has this platform, a design platform for making mind maps. I used it all the time, and suddenly I see the whole building next door becoming a complete office for Miro. So there were like, from 1 month to the other, 800 new people coming.
Wow. Okay.
Outside of the country. And I talked to some of them, and it was quite, everything was really fast. Really, they just came from they were a San Francisco company, so they just bring a lot of people to keep the same quality, to see the same goals, till they can teach local ones. So indeed, that's great. It's a great moment. I think that the summit with the app. So, Franziska, if I would like to ask you, indeed, we have communities like Growth Tribe. We have communities in Startup, which are full of entrepreneurs and people that actually they're not only from here, from the Netherlands, but they are all over the world. If they would like to get in touch with you, what will be the best way?
Well, my homepage is behappyabroad.com. So yeah, it's actually easy to remember. I think it's just Be Happy Abroad in one word without any slashes or something like that. And from there you can you can find different information. Also, I'm on LinkedIn, so reach out on LinkedIn, connect. I'm always happy to connect. So it's Franziska Bauer Luxhøj. If you enter Franziska Luxhøj, I think it's easy to find me because it's a not very common name. I think those two options are the best.
Super. We're also going to make sure to put all the links of your website and on your social media connections with more presentations in the different communities. And Franziska, I thank you. Thank you for this moment of learning.
Thank you for having me.
Super. For everyone, thank you very much for joining us today. If you like this, please remember to subscribe. If you would like to ask a question for me or for Franziska and how to connect her, please just also drop us a comment and we'll make sure that it arrives to a safe place. I wish everyone a wonderful day. Franziska, take care. Have a wonderful day and we'll speak very soon.
Yes, speak soon. Bye.